Marvel just released its newest installment in the MCU with Eternals. Now, I saw this movie the Thursday before it came out, so the movie came out the 5th, I saw it on the 4th, and this is probably going to release on the 12th. I'm sorry I'm so late to the game. I don't really even have an excuse for why it's so late. But even though I am late in releasing this, these are my thoughts and opinions over Eternals. This is going to be a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen the movie quite yet, go ahead, click away from this video, go watch the movie, and then come back here. Because I know right after you see Eternals for the first time, you're gonna wanna come and watch this. So, click away, and then come back after you've seen the movie. Now, that being said, let's get into the review. First of all, I have to talk about the visuals in this movie. The visuals are absolutely stunning. Director Chloe Zhang, I believe that's how you say her name, did a fantastic job in the visual department of this movie. I love the way the film depicted ancient sites like Babylon and its floating gardens, and even Mesopotamia. I don't know how you say that. Even more impressive than the settings of this movie and the locations had to be the Celestials themselves. It was so cool to finally see the Celestials on the big screen, especially Arishem the Judge. Arishem. Seeing his massive size next to the Eternals, they are minuscule compared to this guy. And they even compare the Celestials to the size of the Earth at the very end of the movie, and that was mind-blowing. Like, seeing how big he is, it was so cool to see. The visuals in this movie are awesome. Another visual I enjoyed in this movie were the Eternals' powers themselves. What I thought was really cool was even though each Eternal had different powers, they were all the same color. They were all the same gold color, which I don't know why, but I thought that was really cool. Now, something different about this movie than other MCU movies was the focus on the characters. Although I do feel like this film suffers from the fact that it doesn't really have a main character. Unlike other movies like Endgame or Infinity War, even Civil War, this movie doesn't do the best job at having it being an ensemble movie. I feel like it would have greatly benefited, at least for this first movie, to have one central character. I feel like if that was Fish Out of Water, Dane Whitman, or if they would have just stuck with Cersei, I feel like it would have been a lot better of a movie. Even with that said, both the movie's strength and weakness is the characters. And two of my favorite characters in this movie is Richard Madden's Icarus and Angelina Jolie's Athena. They were the best characters in this movie in my opinion. Now, I loved characters like Kingo and Gilgamesh, even Ajax, Sprite and Cersei, but these two stole the show in my opinion, which is a shame for one of them because Athena is put into the background for most of this movie. I found it interesting how her powers worked. Like, the idea that she could just summon weapons was so cool to me. And the fact that her memories from other planets that they were assigned to, that the Eternals were assigned to help with the emergence, the memories that she had of those planets were coming back to her and like almost destroying and tearing apart her mind and causing her to go against other people in the Eternals. I thought that was a fascinating idea. I thought that was so cool. Like, that was such a cool idea and such a cool thing that they put into the movie that I wish they explored more. But sadly, it was put on the side. I don't know. I feel like they could have explored it a whole lot more and it would have been so cool. Yeah, I just wish she was in it more and more of a central character. Now, Icarus, on the other hand, was heavily featured in this movie. One of the reasons I really liked Icarus was because it reminded me of Injustice's Superman, which is my favorite version of Superman ever. He was even compared to Superman in the movie, which I thought was a really cool nod to DC. Richard Madden is the perfect choice for Icarus. It's the perfect casting choice. I can't see anyone else playing this character except him. He did a fantastic job playing Icarus, and I really liked how Icarus's loyalty to Arishem's plan to destroy the Earth for the emergence of a new Celestial. I liked how his allegiance to Arishem and the purpose of the Eternals being there was set up against his love for Cersei and the rest of the Eternals. Like, you can see the conflict inside of him even without any internal dialogue, which I think is a really hard thing to do on screen, and I think this movie does it very well. And I think that kind of struggle makes for a cool twist when it's revealed that he is actually behind the death of Ajax. He kind of orchestrated it all. I thought that was really cool. And I like how even though he betrayed the Eternals, you still wanted him to come back. You still wanted him to come back to the light. And I think that was exactly what the Eternals characters were feeling as well. So it kind of put you in their shoes, which I think was a cool thing. And props to director Chloe Zhang, I believe that's how you say your name again, for, you know, making that happen. That was really cool. This film also introduces Kit Harington's Dane Whitman, aka the Black Knight, which is a really cool character from the comics. If you don't know who Black Knight is, I'd suggest you look him up and like read the Wikipedia page on him. He's a really cool character in the comics. He was introduced in this movie, but that was about it. They didn't dive into his character at all. They teased a whole lot of Dane Whitman's Black Knight eventually coming, but we never really got to see that. Except in the post-credit scene where we see him open up the case that contains the ebony blade. If you don't know what that is, again, research it. It's a really cool weapon. We see him open up the case with the ebony blade in it, and then it ends on this huge cliffhanger with Blade speaking to Dane Whitman. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I thought this was Jeffrey Wright's Watcher speaking, not Blade. In my defense, though, I never heard Mahershala Ali. I think that's how you say his name. I've never heard his voice before, so cut me a little bit of slack. But it's really cool that Blade is now in the MCU. We knew the movie was coming, but we didn't know when we would see him. So it's cool that we saw him really early in Phase 4. I will accept the minimal screen time that Dane Whitman got if they pay off the tease that they set up in this post-credit scene with Dane Whitman's Black Knight in the Blade movie. That would be insane. I really want to see Blade and Black Knight hunt and kill vampires together. That wasn't something I thought I wanted to see in the MCU until now, and now I really want it. And speaking of post-credit scenes, Harry Styles is officially in the MCU, guys. I remember him actually appearing on screen in theater and me shouting, "It's Harry!" just so loud. It's not my proudest moment, but nonetheless, Eros, God of Love, brother of Thanos, is now a part of the MCU, also known as Star Fox. And he's helping the Eternals now. I think it's really cool how they set up his character in the upcoming sequel. I hope we see him earlier than that, though. As great as this movie was, and as much as I enjoyed it, I did have some problems with it. And the first problem I had with this movie was actually within the first 2 seconds of this movie. I have no idea why this movie starts with an opening crawl like Star Wars. I have no idea. As I was watching it in the theater, I was like, oh, they're gonna skip over all this exposition about the Deviants and the Eternals and why they're there and all that stuff. I was like, great, more time for fight scenes and character development, all this stuff. But the movie doesn't skip that exposition. In fact, everything that you read in the opening crawl is later in the movie and explained more thoroughly. Like, there is no reason for that being there. It's just an added minute and a half, 2 minutes to the movie, to the runtime. It did the opposite of what I thought it was going to do. It didn't leave more time for fight scenes and character development, but rather took away from it. I was just really confused on why it was there. And maybe that's just me, but it didn't really even make sense to me. Also, Kingo. I love this character in this movie. He was great comedic relief. I loved his interactions with the rest of the cast. All that being said, I have no idea why they chose to take him out of the big finale. Like, he just disappears. And it's so weird, and you can kind of feel his absence in that kind of final fight scene. I don't know. I get the story reason for why he was not there, but I don't know. It just felt weird. It felt off that he was gone. And then he just appears out of nowhere with no explanation for why he's back at the very end. Other problems I had with the movie were more minor. Like, their use of flashbacks in the movie weren't the best. I felt like the transitions between the present and the past weren't as smooth as they could have been. I feel like the only time they did the flashbacks very well when they went back and showed Icarus and Ajax. I felt like that was a very smooth and a very good transition between the past and present. But I felt like in every other time it's just kind of random. And every time you would flashback, it would kind of take you out of the immersion of the world that you're in, which I feel like Marvel has traditionally done a really good job of doing that. Also, I feel like this movie drags on just a little bit too long. I feel like in the middle there's just a little bit that you could have just taken out and the movie wouldn't have, the plot, the story, the characters, nothing would have really changed. But again, that's just me. Another problem I had with this movie was the deviants. In the beginning of the movie, I had no problem with them. But towards the end of the movie, it just made no sense for why the main guy, I always forget his name, just kept popping up. It felt like Spider-Man 3, that there were just way too many villains. And again, none of them were really villains, which is a cool part of this movie. Just the deviants, the longer the movie went on, the more and more the deviants became less needed and just kind of felt like they were there. After Icarus, it was revealed that Icarus betrayed the Eternals. I felt like we should have stopped seeing the deviants, set them up for a sequel or something. I don't really understand why they're here after that point. To be honest, in the Phase 4 releases that have come out so far, which is only 3, I'm only counting the movies in this ranking, I would say that Black Widow's at the bottom, and then Eternals, and then Shang-Chi. And I'd say it's very little right here. And I really enjoyed Shang-Chi. I just felt like it didn't change the formula too much. This did. This pulled some risks, and there were a lot of reward, but there was also a lot of misses. And I'm gonna say, I can see why it was the first ever rotten Marvel movie. I don't know why Incredible Hulk and Black Widow weren't, but that's beside the point. I get why critics didn't like this movie, and I get why a lot of people don't like this movie, but I also understand why people really loved and enjoyed this movie. I'm in this weird middle ground. Although this movie wasn't everything I thought it was going to be, I loved the characters that introduced and the things it set up for the future of the MCU. So with that, I'm happy with this movie. I think that's all I have for Marvel's Eternals. Let me know what you think about Eternal. Thanks for watching. Sorry this is so late. But until the next video, peace out. I'll catch you on the flip-flop, bro skillets.